With March Madness coming to start tomorrow, I thought it would be great to talk about my prediction for the 2026 NCAA tournament. Now, I'm only predicting which of those four teams that's going to come out of the regions, who's going to be my final four, national championship, who could be the Cinderella run, teams that could be make a run for the championship, as well as upsets that could possibly happen. So enjoy this because probably I'll do another one by the time we get to the final four. So let's begin. So in the East region, I narrowed this one to six teams because it can go either way for these six teams. You got Duke, the number one overall seed, St. John's, Kansas, Michigan State, UCLA, and UConn. All respect. Listen, all the respect is going to be to Kansas, UCLA. You guys are going to make it to the second round, unless there is some upsets. You never know. Michigan State, I believe they're going to make it to the Sweet 16, where they will lose to UConn. That's my prediction. Then it's St. John's and Duke. Now, if you go look at this, if you can think of this match, that game will be a more intriguing one because Duke is the number one overall seed, yes. But everyone has been talking about St. John's and their win against UConn in the Big East championship game, dominated UConn, by the way. And UConn won St. John's, by the way. So I do see this. It could probably go in that direction, but I'm going to say Duke beats St. John's, which means my East regional final prediction will be Duke and UConn. That would be a dream match. Dan Hurley going up against a Duke team that is young, a team that is looking to get back to championship form from last year. Unfortunately, lose to Houston last year in the Final Four. I'm going to go with Duke. I think they'll do it again. They'll win the East region. I could see UConn winning it. And yeah, remember last year they were going for the three-peat, but unfortunately fall apart, losing. I believe they lost to Florida, who were the national champs last year. So I'm going to go with Duke. I think Duke gets out of the East region. The South regional. So I narrow this to three teams. There could be a fourth team. Comment down below if you think there's a fourth team. I narrowed it to Florida, Houston, and Illinois. Now, Illinois could make it to the Elite Eight, which is their best scenario because they might play Houston in the Sweet 16. Now, Florida, they got an easy path to the Sweet 16, but in that Sweet 16, they could play either Vanderbilt, a team that they've lost in the SEC tournament, Nebraska, who's been, they'll look to win their first NCAA tournament. That's if they can win it. I think, to me, the South Regional, it's going to come down to Florida or Houston. Those two are going to face each other in the South Regional Championship, a rematch of the NCAA National Championship, and I think Houston gets out of there. I think Houston will be the South Regional champs, and Houston back in the Final Four. Midwest Regional, I have Michigan, Iowa State, Virginia, Alabama, and Texas Tech. So I'm going to cross off Texas Tech and Alabama because for Texas Tech, everyone is going with the upset, which, again, I'll talk about the upsets. I think they'll make it past not the Sweet 16, I think the Sweet 16, to the second round. Bama, I think their best chance is the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. I think it's Sweet 16. Virginia is the dark horse. Now, I'll talk about a little more dark horse teams or Cinderella teams. But Virginia is a dark horse. And I could see them making to the Final Four. But I think it's going to come down to is Iowa State and Michigan. And I'm going to go with Iowa State. I think Iowa State will be Midwest Regional champions. And it will be their first Final Four appearance since 1944. The last time the Cyclones have been featured in the Final Four. I think Michigan, yes, they could probably represent the Midwest, but I think they need to be tested against a real good team. And I think Iowa State will be that good team to beat Michigan in the Midwest Regional. Finally, in the West Regional, you got Arizona, Purdue, Arkansas, BYU, and Gonzaga. I also added Villanova because you never know what Villanova is going to do. But I don't think Villanova is going to get through the first round unless somehow they pass in the first round but lose in the second round. Gonzaga, I think they're going to be another dark horse team. I think they could get to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. BYU is my Cinderella team. I think they're going to be the more Cinderella team to get to the Elite 8. And yes, I have them going to the Elite 8 over Arkansas and Purdue. Purdue who won the Big Ten. Despite that, they're going to be really tested. And I think BYU can shock a lot of people in this year's tournament. Arkansas could shock a lot of people as well. They won the SEC for the first time since 2002, which well earned for them. But they're going to be tested in the Sweet 16 against possibly Arizona, which I have Arizona winning the West Regional. I think it's going to be Arizona against BYU, and Arizona comes out of the West Regional as champs. So who is my Final Four? Well, it's number 1 Duke against number 2 Houston, a rematch of last year's Final Four, and number 1 Arizona against number 2 Iowa State. So there is 1 ACC and 3 Big 12 schools going at each other. Who wins between Duke and Houston? I think Houston wins it. I think they got the players, and Calvin and their coach, he's trying to deliver a national championship to the University of Houston, and it's not going to stop until they win. And I think Houston beats Duke yet again, goes back to the national championship game. Their opponent, I would love to see Iowa State back in the national championship, but I'm going to go with Arizona. They've been one of the best teams in the country, but again, they have not been tested in that region. Now, Sweet 16, Elite 8, the Final Four, and the national championship, they'll probably be the more tested features for Arizona, but I think Arizona beats Iowa State. National championship, which means it will be a rematch of the Big 12 title game that happened 2 weeks ago, I'm assuming, or last week, between number 2 Houston and number 1 Arizona. Who wins the national championship in Indy? I have number 2 Houston winning the national championship. I think Calvin Simpson is a great coach. I think he's going to get his players ready. And listen, third time is a lucky charm. They lost to Arizona in the regular season. They lost to Arizona in the Big 12 title game. I think in the national championship, they need to win something. And even though you don't win the regular season or the tournament, there's always something special for that university. And I think Houston will win it. They'll win their first national title in school history. So teams that can make a run to the Final Four, I listed a bunch as I mentioned. BYU is my Cinderella team. Arkansas is a dark horse. Illinois, another dark horse team. Virginia, dark horse. Gonzaga, I could call it Cinderella team. Michigan State would be a dark horse. St. John's, I think, will be a dark horse. And UCLA, I have them as a Cinderella team. If this were to happen, some of those teams could end up making a big run to maybe at least the Elite 8 or Sweet 16. Also, I add Kansas, so if I were to say Kansas upsets St. John's, which will be a great one, they could end up going to the Elite 8 and make a surprise. Upsets. So I have 2 upsets in my bracket. Sorry for the first round only. I have St. Louis upset over Georgia, and I have Santa Clara over Kentucky. Now, I think Kentucky can do it, but this Santa Clara team is for real. they can probably at least make it to the second round. Teams that could happen, and this is basically everyone's opinion, and I do believe this could actually happen. So, UCF over Louisville, I think it could be a possibility that UCF beats Louisville. Of course, just recently today, their star player is out for Louisville. So South Florida could upset Louisville. You never know what happens there. UCF over UCLA, I think that could be that's one I think I'll keep an eye on because UCLA has two players that are injured. So UCF maybe upset them. Clemson over Iowa. Sure, why not? Troy over Nebraska. Nobody's going to call this one out, but Troy upset Nebraska. Why? Well, Nebraska is looking for their first win in the NCAA tournament, and maybe Troy can spoil that chance. VCU over UNC, I think that's another one. 11 seed could upset the a 6 seed. I think that's still a possibility. High Point over Wisconsin. Missouri over Miami. Akron over Texas Tech because they're dealing with injuries. And then Hofstein, the Pride, over Alabama, which is not popular, but everyone believes this Pride team could beat Alabama. I don't think that happens, but you never know. Anything can happen. If one of these could come true, the one I think that could come true is UCF over Louisville, Clemson over Iowa, and I'm going to go with Missouri over Miami. Those are my three that I do believe could possibly happen. I don't think High Point beats Wisconsin. I think it could be a shootout, but I just think Wisconsin gets it. They'll win it this inch. And that's it. But again, one more time. The Houston Cougars are my national champions. I'll do this again when we get to the Final Four, which is on April. And I'll be predicting the Final Four plus the national championship game. If you're not seeing my other videos, go check them out on my channel. Of course, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more sports news, and let the madness begin.